Hey guys, this is going to be a basic video about, I guess, footprint charts. Like what delta is and just what it's measuring. Hopefully, I'm going to go over some of the foundational aspects of footprint trading, including the basic definitions, so that, people who don't even know, say, what deltas are, can have an idea. So what we have here is, from the right to left, I've got just my right here is my time in sales, which I'll drag around as I explain things. Got my order entry here. I've got my depth of market. Right, so some people call it like a ladder. Um, So, a little maybe in futures, this is common. Not so common when you're trading stocks to look at the market this way. But, on this side, these are all the bids stacked up, and these are all the ask orders or sell orders stacked up, right? They're all limit orders. Um, and then on this part of the chart, we have our footprint chart, and I've kind of configured mine measuring extended trading or Globex trading hours here, and it's measuring just the net deltas, and then along with the volume, right? And that's at each level. And then I show my net deltas for the regular trading hours, as well as the regular trading hours volume, right? And then this part of the chart is the actual footprint, part of the chart. So a lot of folks are used to seeing footprints like this, right? Where it's this number by this number, and that shows you your net deltas. I've got this one configured to show the volumes, so the bid volume and the ask volume, and then the difference of that, right? So like in this case, you can see it's positive. Anyway, but I've got my chart over here configured to show me net deltas on the left side, and then volume transacted for the bar on this side, right? And then above, I've got my cumulative deltas for the session. So mine reset at the start of the regular trading hours, 6:30 my time, that's Pacific Standard, and then 9:30 Eastern, and then it runs the cumulative delta total, right up here at the top, and then at the bottom, each bar, each bar's delta is measured, right? So this bar has a lot of what we call positive delta, and then these little rectangular bars to the left of this first column would just signify the open and the close, and if it's it's like a candle. This would be like the real body of a candlestick. So this would be the open right over here at 3808, and then the close. Well, it hasn't closed yet, but if it closed here, which I'm using a point and figure chart, so it couldn't close here. But if it did close here, um, you know, that would be the close or the current price, right? So if it opened here and it closed here, it would look like, pink or whatever color you wanted it to look like. But in my case, it's a reddish color, more I would say pink. Easy on the eyes. So, okay, so, and then down here we've got volume. And then I've got some things overlaid onto my chart here, which I'm not going over today. But essentially, that's what my chart is measuring. So, when we're talking about deltas, for the, I guess, uninitiated, deltas by definition, and I've put this on a notepad so that folks can maybe come back to this. Deltas are ask volume minus bid volume, right? That's what delta is, all right? So you might say, the next question is, what is ask volume? So you have asks or sell orders, and you have bid orders. Ask volume is just measuring the volume that has transacted from someone taking initiative and buying into the ask. So ask volume shows up on your time and sales as green, right? Someone took initiative and bought, right? So if I wanted to contribute to the ask volume here at 3809.50, here's how I would do it. I would click on my depth of market here on the buy side, and boom, if this were not a simulation, I would have contributed a volume of 1, and it would show up here as an ask trade. So the bid trade would be the opposite, right? It would be someone coming over and selling into this bid. So, and that would be someone taking initiative and selling into the bid. So all volume prices move because folks either take initiative and buy into the ask, or they sell into the bid, unless the whole order book moves and there are no transactions, which, funny enough, that actually does happen sometimes in bonds. Not all the time, but it does happen once in a while. So anyway, the way I would get out of this trade is by selling into the bid, which is called a bid trade. And boom, now I'm flat. I paid what? The spread plus another tick. So anyway, so really all delta's measuring is ask volume minus the bid volume, okay? So, and that's what produces the number here in this left column, okay? So in this case, okay, again, these colors correlate, you can think of, to the time and sales. Right here, people are taking more initiative and buying the ask, right? And so there's an imbalance of buying here to the tune of 145 more contracts were buyers than sellers. So it's an imbalance of 145 contracts, okay, out of a total volume of 443, right? So you can, I was going to maybe explain it another way, but I think it might be too confusing. I think most people will get that. Okay, so, and conversely, right, when you have a red number or a negative number, there's been more bid trades, right, which shows initiative selling. Okay, so delta is essentially just measuring who's more aggressive at any given tick. Okay, so you can see here, like, the buyers are a bit more aggressive through here, okay, right in this bar here. Out of 1,173 contracts, there's an imbalance of 209 more buyers, right? And it gets more and more and more aggressive. And then finally at the end here, in my footprint, when the deltas are 95% or more, either bid or ask volume of the total volume. Maybe that sounds like a lot, but rewind it and listen to it again. It makes sense. Then it turns yellow. Okay, so that's, for me, that's just, and you can see that here. Negative 70 of total 70 volume, right? Negative 30 of 30 total volume. So what are those? Those are bid trades, hence the little negative number here. Okay. Again, in a traditional footprint, you would just see it like this, right? 0 and 66. So the ask volume, right, is 66. The bid volume here is 0, meaning, you know, price only went to here. There were asks and it never went through those asks, and there was no more interest for price to keep going higher. Nobody was willing to buy all of the asks that were on the book here and, you know, continue buying higher, right? So what we would call that is that, okay, here there was a lot of interest, a lot of volume, okay? And then a little less here, a little more here, and then a little bit less, quite a bit, and then all of a sudden it tapered here. So we call that tapering volume. So for whatever reason, like we see a little lower volume node here, there wasn't a lot of interest at the time to go and buy through this area. Or, you know, maybe the sellers, once it got to this point, you know, all of the people that were buying from here, buying, and then maybe some stops were here, a few more folks bought, and then all of a sudden, and there's a big imbalance of buyers. Well, sometimes when there's too many buyers, what do they become to get out of their position? Sellers. So they sold back down, and it, you know, came to here. So that's what you call a little bit of tapering. I often mention that on Twitter. You'll see a lot of other people mention that as well. Okay, so I mean, now that I guess you have the basics of what footprint is actually measuring, right? Ask volume minus bid volume. You're measuring initiative at every tick. We can kind of go through and, you know, take a look at some of the structure here and see, you know, why does this work? Well, if you think of all of the transactions, the buying and selling that's occurring in the E-mini like an auction, like a real-time auction, right? When you go to the auction and everyone's buying and selling, let's say, I've heard it used a lot, cattle, okay? When the cattle are in good condition, they're fat, everybody is like, well, these are good quality cattle. They see value in the cattle. Everyone's buying and selling rapidly. There's a lot of volume transacting, right? Because both buyers and sellers see value in transacting at that level, okay? So look here. We're looking at this bar here that shows negative 9,517, again, cumulative delta for the session, right? And 5,320 positive delta in this bar, okay? We have here not a lot of interest, and you can see less interest to sell, and all of a sudden volume spikes here, right? And it goes up significantly, and then it lowers, and then it punches through here, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of sellers, there's a lot of buyers, right? So out of what, how many, almost 3,600 contracts here, right? There was an imbalance of 1,014 buyers, right? So you could say that there's passive sellers here too, right? Willing to just fill up their asks on the bid. Maybe the algos are, you know, in a split second, microseconds or less even, just refilling the ask side, and buyers are coming in and just buying, and it doesn't go anywhere for a while. And then finally, okay, there's not enough sellers here, and the buyers are just still going bonkers. And so it goes up, but there's still quite a bit of volume relative to, you know, say down here or whatever, right? So we see like 2,700, 2,000, 1,700. And it doesn't taper down to the single digits here. It just, there's a huge buying imbalance still. 263 contracts with, you know, 187 contract buy imbalance, right? Meaning they were ask trades, right? and so it doesn't taper. So it's like going to an auction, and all of a sudden, like everyone's just shouting, like, "Yeah, give me that cow! I'll sell this one. I'll buy that one," and the action's going nuts. Everyone's still interested, but then the people selling the cows are like, "Hey, I want to sell, 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 sell," and then price comes back down. There's still a lot of interest to buy and sell here. Okay, it hasn't tapered. The interest hasn't diminished, right? And so we would call that, like in the E-mini, we would call that an unfinished auction, right? Meaning there's still a lot of interest here, but the sellers, for whatever reason, took control and pushed the price down. Probably a lot of profit taking, because what? This is a lot of buy imbalance. So typically, after such a heavy buy imbalance like that, there's a lot of folks who are looking to take profit. So what happened? Boom, the next bar reverses, comes down. A whole bunch of folks take profit. But as you can see, out of the total deltas, right, there's 5,320 positive deltas here. When this came back down, they weren't even that aggressive of sellers. There weren't, like, the total, even the total volume in this bar is like nothing compared to this. So buyers are still strong, right? So when you see something like this, you look at it and go, ah, you know what? This is an unfinished auction. This number is high. This number is high. It doesn't taper to 100%. So at some point here, right? Because this isn't, say, 263 of 263. They bought, and then no one actually transacted at this level, and there was probably a little gap and then they sold into this level, right? So it didn't even taper. It was just like super aggressive selling here at the 38.10 mark. Just instantaneously, like, okay, we want to take profit and come back down. But when that happens, there's still, you just have to think about it in terms of an auction. There's still a lot of interest to buy here, right? There's still a lot of transactional interest. The contract quantity is high. So what? It came back down and then it tapered, right? Right through this area, you can see. Look on the right side of where volume is. It comes down 500, 345, 228, 87, and 9 contracts. That's it. Okay, it tapered and then whoop, price pushed back up, and then there wasn't that much interest, short term at least, to go beyond this price. And then you would say, oh, this is a short term completed auction, right? But when you see something like this, and you see the price push back down, oftentimes you can get long again for a break, of this level here. It may even only be 1 or 2 or 3 ticks when it does break, when it pops back up, right? And so conversely, you can think of the same thing on the downside. If on the downside you have a high contract value auction like here, 3805, okay, well, this isn't actually very high. Let's see if we can find one here. Yeah, I mean, let's see. That's not even very high. This is still taper. Come on. All these auctions we're completing. Let's see. Okay. Right here, I would say that that would be an unfinished auction. Okay. Did we test it? No. But you have to think about where we were relative to where we just came from, right? We were at the 3800s. We came all the way down here to 3775 and bounced like a mofo. And so, context is king, right? Here you have a huge rally, right? And I'm saying this is an finished auction, and we're starting to kind of consolidate. And if you look at the bar chart, where are we at here? We're near this trend line. Price tends to gravitate through the trend line, right? So a lot of it is context, right? So it's one more piece of the puzzle, right? And so You can also think of the buying as, yes, it's initiative, yes, it's an auction, but it's it's also sellers willing to step in and passively absorb buyers, right? So let's say, I don't know, let's say today, for whatever reason, this was the top. We came up, aggressive selling, and then there wasn't much interest to buy, and then it came back down, right? And then it came back up, and let's say it just tapered to like 9 or 10 contracts here. And then this number here, the 1282, became, you know, after a significant amount of time, or doesn't even have to be a significant amount of time, a fair amount of time, became a higher number, like 4 or 5,000 contracts, right? With a bunch of positive deltas, okay? And then it started to push down and just kind of roll over. Well, that's another way to see that, like, hey, the buyers are buying, but they can't take this thing up any higher, right? So, and that's what we would call absorption, okay? Um, the buyers just aren't getting anywhere. And so what are all these buyers going to become when they see the price not moving? You know, if I bought and I went big here for the breakout and then price started to move down, what do you think I'm going to be? I'm going to be a seller, right? So price is then just going to roll over, and you know, that's one way to kind of interpret this. So another thing I want to go over is the fact that I use point and figure. A few people have asked me about this, and let's see, how long is this video already? I don't want to make it too long. Oh, sheesh, 20 minutes. So this is about probably where I want to end it. I will show you my settings. You guys can pause the video and look at my number bar settings. There's a lot of other things that I've added to get, like cumulative delta on the top, and I've got a custom steady in here. I won't go into all of that. I won't go into how to get the deltas above and below or anything like that. All of these other overlaid studies, but I will show you my number bars and how to get them looking like this, showing your net deltas and your volume. And before I continue, the reason that I like showing net deltas rather than the traditional footprint like this is because in this scenario you have to do more math. You know, I'd rather it just be show me the net deltas and then the net volume, and that gets me the same result. So, you know, it just depends. Some people start out with this and they're comfortable with that, but for me, it's just less calculation for my brain to do, and I've gotten good at you know, looking at imbalances in this way. So but anyway, I was going to go over point and figure. So the way that point and figure works, let's see if I can do this, is let me get out of here. Point and figure. So I've got my point. Let's do this. Let's look at my chart settings. So first of all, if you're in your platform and they do offer point figure, my setting that I like to use with the E-mini is 1 and -12. Okay, so the 12 refers to the amount of ticks necessary for a reversal, and then the 1 refers to how many reversals before a new bar prints. And for me, I want to do our bar to print every time there's one 12 tick reversal. So 12 ticks in the E-mini is 3 points. So I want to see when there's a rotation or a movement up and down of 3 points. Okay, so I just find that's useful for rotations. And you can use 18, you could use 20, you could use whatever you want. So anyway, what a point and figure chart actually is it basically just measures, let's see here, let's say price opens here, and then it goes down, down. It's better to show you. All right, price ticks down, it ticks down, it ticks down, it ticks down. Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's say price opens right up here at 38.14. This is a new bar. And it ticks down to 14 to 70.75 to 1350, 1325. It goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 ticks. Okay, when is it going to print a new bar? It's going to print a new bar anytime there's a movement in one direction and then it reverses 12 ticks the opposite direction. Okay, so if this bar opened here and it moved 1, 2, 3 ticks down, right where it's purple, and then it price turned around and went back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can't even see it on the screen, but 12 at 1650, and it ticked up one more time, a new bar would print. Okay, so that can happen. So the definition of a point figure 1-12 is where price moves any direction. It could move up one tick, and then if it reverses 12 ticks on the next tick, it'll print a new bar. So price tends to oscillate up and then down and then up and then down and then up and then down and then up, then down, then up, then down. It still won't print a new bar until you get, say from here, 12 ticks down. Okay, so which is why you have in a point figure bar, you have bars that look like this. This thing probably went up. Okay, so here it reversed what? 12 ticks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's the 12th. And then boom, new bar. Okay? At least, maybe it was this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, it could have been that way too. I don't remember what this did in real time. But either way, you had this new bar, and it was probably oscillating something like this. You know, brrr, back down, right? Brrr, back up, back down. But it never came back down 12 ticks, so it didn't print a new bar. Okay, so it's just extremely useful in measuring whether price is trending one direction or not, right? Or, you know, if we're in a market that's like, you know, moving up and down 3 points really fast, like, you know, in high ATR, high volatility environments, point figure 112 is probably not the best chart, because if it's like, you know, every minute or two it's going boom, 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 you're just going to get a ton of new bars printing. So maybe you would want to change that if the price is moving like that to kind of see the volume nodes. Maybe you would, you know, if before price moved a lot, let's say if price was going up and down 12 times all the time, and you still had your point figure 1-12 on, you know, you would want, let's say it moved up and down like 8 times or something. You probably want to make that like 2-12 or 3-12, which would be like, okay, up 12, okay, reverse 12, new bar on a point figure 1-12. But on a 3-12 it'd be like, okay, not a new bar, and then it went up again, not a new bar, and then went back down again. Up, that's the third reversal, then it would print a new bar, right? So if price was just moving up and down, you would want to know short term, where is the volume? You wouldn't want to add it like this bar to this bar to this bar, etc. Like, you wouldn't want to be adding it between bars across 6 or 7 bars. You know, you would want to be using say a 3-12 or whatever. So another thing in my bars is I do have the little background here, is when the volume of the bar at a tick is like 70% of, or greater of the volume of the bar, it prints it purple. So it kind of just tells me where the nodes are. So like here, you can see it's like distributed here and here, and this is purple here. So I find that useful. It's more of a visual cue to go like, hey, price is rotating. Maybe folks shorted or took profit here, and then they want to turn around and cover in this area all the way down in here as well. So it's just kind of helps me to know that folks are willing to cover shorts or buy very close to where volume already transacted, between what, like 7 or 8 ticks away, which can kind of show consolidation, because sometimes you have like this. You have this big volume node, and then whoop, less volume, and we're talking about 4 or 5 points, 6 points before there's heavier volume again, and then there's looks like what, profit taking or shorting going on, right? And so it's kind of good to know that, hey, we're in a trending kind of situation here, rather than like up here. It's let's see if I can grab this here. It's more of a consolidation situation, right? So anyway, I think that's about it. If there's something that I missed, oh no, that I was going to show you my settings. That's what it was. Probably would have been better if I was a little more structured. There'd be less dead spots in this video, but it is what it is, man. I have a family and a kid and a very snuggleable wife waiting for me on the couch. So without further ado, I guess I will show you guys my number bar settings. So I like to name everything in my studies so that I can refer back to it. And these aren't automatically named for you, so it's good to be organized. So anyway, this is the number bar study that you can add to any chart in Sierra Chart, which is the platform I use. I think it's one of the best. Haven't used them all out there, so can't say it's the best, but it's the best I've used so far. So I will just go through. I don't use column 1, okay? I use column 2. So you can kind of go through and look at what I've got. Okay. All right, so the background type, right aligned, volume, profile, outline. Well, it doesn't matter because I don't use a background coloring method. So, things like that. So you can copy all these settings. A lot of the settings are invalidated by certain selections. So if you don't know what you're doing, just copy them, and I would hit apply as you copy them to see what each one does, sort of reverse engineer it. Okay, so moving down here. Okay. You can pause the screen and take a screenshot or whatever you want to do. Okay. This column 1% thresholds, that's that 95% I was talking about with the yellow. I guess I do use column 1. So if you want to look at column 1, just the coloring for column 1 is not controlled here. That's why. Okay, so let's go back to that area. Okay, there you go. This is where my coloring is designated. So use separate colors for text coloring method. So anyway, scroll all the way to the bottom, and there you guys go. So anyway, if you have any questions on Twitter, hit me up. Have a good one. Happy Friday, and hope everybody's week was super successful. All right, take it easy.